What you are about to see is a remote viewing session done totally blind, where the remote viewer did not know the target. And the target, however, is something I'm going to tell you right now so that you can follow along. But just remember, when the remote viewer is describing what happened in the session, the remote viewer does not know what I'm going to tell you now. The target is Ali Akbar Ahmadian. He's the Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council, 2 days before the Hamas attack on Israel that occurred near the end of the first week of October 2023. Now, the target time again is 2 days before the Hamas attack on Israel, and the focus initially is Ali Akbar Ahmadian. He's head of security. So the real question is, we're interested in whether the head of security of Iran knew in advance about the attack, or how much they knew about the attack, or if they were caught off guard. All right. Now, there is a second subject. So subject A is Ali Akbar Ahmadian, but subject B is Ebrahim Raisi. He's the president of Iran. And we're interested in the same thing. Does the president of Iran know anything about the Hamas attack before it happens? And also, what is the president's thoughts and involvement about that after the attack as well? So, again, Ali Akbar Ahmadian, focus 1, subject A. And then the Iranian president, Ebrahim Raisi, subject B. And again, the focus, the concern is the upcoming attack on Israel. Now, event E is the first day of the Hamas attack on Israel, which is the 7th of October. All right, now let's watch the remote viewing session. Remember, the remote viewer is totally blind to this, and the target will be revealed to the remote viewer after the session is presented. All right, Aziz, so we're going to start with deep news, and this was done on October, and it's going to be published in November. So you don't know anything about the target, right?
Nope, don't know anything about the target.
All right. All right, so why don't you lead us through what you picked up? You have a major focus for the target, and 2 subjects and a concern. So why don't you just start with what you picked up with this, and I'll tell you what the target is after you tell us what you got in your session.
Yeah, so the first couple passes through the target, I was just basically getting a land-water interface, extensive water, a little bit of land, some hilly stuff very far in the distance, but basically a boat looking thing, just a structure on the water. Also saw a structure in my first sketch, a structure on land. That was on page 4, but then page 5 and 6 basically is just a structure on water, kind of looked like a boat. So that was basically the first couple passes through the target, and then I went over and started looking at subject A on page 8, and that was really where the bulk of the DeepMind probes and descriptions started.
Okay, well, what did you feel about subject A?
Well, subject A, he seemed like a stout, portly fellow. Seemed like he had a large belly region. Seemed like a male. I got sort of this slightly curly, I mean, just sort of, it's not like curly like my hair is, but slightly sort of curled out, dark hues hair. I got a little bit of a tanner skin. Although it is on the lighter side of complexion, I got tan skin. And basically these dark green clothes. It kind of reminded me of like a jumpsuit or a military uniform, but just dark green attire and a large portly belly. And looking a bit more around him and in his environment, I got to see sort of him in this room, indoors environment. Kind of seemed like there was maybe a window behind him. There was a bunch of subjects, a collective group of sort of hectically moving around, frantically moving around subjects that also seemed to have similar colored uniform attire with this sort of the green hues, matte green hues, jumpsuity looking wear on them. And it seemed like they were sort of just moving around with haste amongst themselves, and subject A the larger, heavy-set subject was sort of just standing back and looking at them. But that was basically the gist of the environment and the description of the appearance of subject A when I started probing him.
Your sketch has him with facial hair.
Yeah, he had a big amount of facial hair. I mean, it seems like just more than I have on my face. Just he's got facial hair. He's got some beard action.
Okay, all right. Well then, what was happening when you went in his mind, the deep mind probe for subject A?
He was tired. He had this sluggish, tired energy about him, but he didn't show it. It was like he had this sort of, I mean, I drew a diagram. He had this sort of inner circle, inner core of that's basically how he actually felt. And he just felt like he was really sluggish. He felt lazy, sluggish, feelings of tiredness. I mean, I sort of wonder if it was just dealing with him not getting enough sleep, or sort of just like a physical part of him being kind of large and just being sort of tired and sluggish, feeling tired and sluggish on the inside. But on the outside, when he was sort of presenting himself and interacting with subjects, on the outside there was this fiery energy, this take charge sort of forceful energy, just very aggressively outwards extroverted energy. I mean, he was just very much not seemingly tired on the outside. Just sort of sluggish feeling on the inside, did not show it. Very much an extroverted, outwardly high energy person on the outside. Forceful energy, aggressive energy.
All right, now the target has a concern. So what was subject A's sense when you did a deep mind probe of him with regard to concern 1?
So I did get the sense of it's this sense of worry. I got this sense of it's like a thing that's not in front of him yet, but it's coming in his direction. I got this sense of nervousness, this idea of this impending collision. Like there's gonna be a collision between himself and concern 1. And when that collision happens, it's like he had this sort of goal of hitting that collision, because that seemed unavoidable. It seemed like there was gonna be a collision. And then himself sort of zooming around and past concern 1. And so, well, I'll say it again, I was sort of covering my mouth, but he makes the collision happen, and then he moves around and past concern 1. But basically that's basically the energy that I got from him. He's a little worried, a little sort of nervous about it, but it seems like there's just this sort of impending collision that is going to happen, and he's sort of, I don't get the sense that concern 1 is destroyed. I don't get the sense that that collision gets rid of concern 1, but I get the sense that after the collision, after he hopefully, based on his desires, is able to navigate after the collision, boom, and navigate around it and keep going, then concern 1 will be out of sight, out of mind. It just won't be something he's worried about anymore.
Okay, then you went onto his mind to inquire about how involved subject A is with event E.
Yeah, so I get the sense this is also something that's far away. I get the sense that he's watching it. I get the sense that he knew about the general energy of event E before event E occurred, but I also get the sense of not really knowing the specifics, not knowing how it takes shape, not knowing a bit of surprise when event E actually happens, but just not being very aware of how event E takes shape, not just being aware of a little bit of it beforehand, but just not really in the know of the specifics pertaining with it. It kind of just felt like it's this thing he's looking at. That thing is just sort of far away, but it just I get this sort of mild nervous energy. But when I say nervous, it's kind of like the nervous energy that you get when you're going on a roller coaster. You're a little nervous. There's a little excitement in there nestled within the nervous, but you're nervous. You're going up the roller coaster. It's about to be the big drop. I hate roller coasters, so maybe that's different for other people. So it's the idea of me, the last time I went on a roller coaster, I was incredibly nervous. I was not having a good time, but I assume other people, like the 10-year-old kid in front of me, he was having a great time. So I assume this, when I'm saying nervousness, I mean this mix of like that nervous energy with a slight thread of excitement mixed in there, because it's that roller coaster-like energy. Like it's going to be a wild ride sort of experience.
So you write on your session that So there was some surprise with subject A when the event happened.
Yeah, a little bit of surprise there. Because he didn't know the specifics. He knew the energy a little bit beforehand, but that the specifics of how it takes shape, the specifics of event E in actuality as it actually manifests, that was unknown. So
Okay. Well, let's move on to subject B. And you have some interesting sketches of subject B.
Subject B was interesting. He kind of looked like a judge. He had this long black robe, and he had these, I don't know, it looked like a pancake. It's sort of a headgear on his head, and it's not a pancake, maybe like a actual cake. I mean, it's like a thick, circular-looking headgear thing on his head. It was a unique headgear. I'll just say it's unique headgear. He had headgear, seemed a little unique, and this large black robe. And basically, also a little bit round around the belly, a little stout. But that was basically the appearance. You have him with
facial hair as well.
He's got facial hair as well. That's true.
All right, so at least your sketch has it with facial hair.
Yeah,
so
he did.
Let's go to subject B. When you did a deep mind probe, what did you feel about him?
I did not get the sense of sluggish energy like relative to subject A. That wasn't present, so I just wanted to note that. I got the sense that he's standing in a nicer looking environment. I got the sense that he has a bit more energy, and I was wondering if that's maybe because his lifestyle is less taxing physically on him, but it just seems like his life and his demeanor has got a bit more energy than subject A had. If just judging by my initial appearances, I'm not saying this is exactly what they do, but judging my initial appearances with their appearance and how their energy mentally felt, I got the sense that subject A is more in charge of like rough and tough sides of life, when subject B is more in charge of the civility and civilian side of things, the more civilian side of things, just not as rough and tough in terms of what he's actually dealing with in his day-to-day.
So you had the deduction of political and politician.
Yeah, like a political guy, you know, the political guy's not running through the mud. He's sitting indoors and he's doing indoor things with nice chairs and stuff like that. So,
well, then what did you feel about subject B with regard to concern number 1?
I got an interesting perception with this. I kind of felt like it was a timeline perception, like it started in one place and then it ended in a little bit of a different place. At the beginning, sort of in the past, I guess you would say, compared to the other perception, at the beginning it sort of felt like he didn't think about it too much. I felt like he was aware of it, but it wasn't really the center of his attention because he had other stuff to do. There was just other things on the plate that were more important that he was really focusing on, and this was just something that was happening out there that was in the background, but he was aware of it for sure. And I get the feeling that it was interesting, and but focusing on it, it wasn't his job to focus on it. I got the sense that there were other people that were focusing on that, and he knew that, but his job was to focus on something else. And so as time went on, though, that started to change. As time went on, I felt like he starts giving it more and more attention, and then it sort of feels like he becomes quite active in his involvement with Event E, actually. It just seems like when Event E, well, this is a different thing, but it just seems like he starts to pay a lot more attention to it. But then the next probe I was actually probing for was how active subject B becomes with Event E.
Yeah, let's go to that.
Yeah, and when I started probing how active he becomes with Event E, this was something that he was actually getting pretty engaged in. So it seemed like when he became more engaged in Event E, it was like emotions were charged up. He was speaking very loudly. He was speaking very forcefully. He was gathering a bunch of subjects together and speaking very forcefully to them. So it was like it was like public speaking, but he was just really giving a strong speech and stuff. So I guess that's sort of where things started to change. I mean, when I was probing with is subject B aware of concern 1, all of my imagery of subject B originally, it seemed like he was in a calmer environment. His mental state was calmer. He wasn't like tired, lethargic, sluggish. It just seemed like that was more where his state was. But then as time went on with concern 1, it seemed like he started to focus a lot more on it, more energies going into the topic as time goes on. As soon as I start looking at Event E, it really seems like he's really putting out a lot of energy. So it just is a big change from him just sort of being this calm and more relaxed sort of character. So, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, and you have some comments about Subject A becoming involved with Event E.
Yeah, I got the sense that when Subject A was getting more involved with Event E, it just felt like his activity was not the same as the activity of Subject B. Subject B's activity was really climaxed with him just in front of a large group of subjects and having this big forceful speech, speaking to them with a lot of force. But Subject A, it seemed like Subject A was basically just sitting in a room alone, sort of just sitting down, but mentally he had like basically told a bunch of other subjects to go do something. I got the sense of a lot of these, I sort of deducted them as soldiers, but I got the sense of a lot of other subjects, and he sort of like motioned this like pointing order to them, and then they all just run off to this tan hues horizon. And that's sort of just the appearance of what happened in my head. But yeah, just a large group of subjects in these greenish uniforms. They're just running off to a tan horizon at the behest of the orders of, or representing, Subject A. But Subject A himself, physically, very inactive, very just sitting in the chair and just being like, you go there. And so, yeah, that's basically what I perceived.
Yeah, so it seems like Subject B gets more into the spirit of the thing than Subject A does.
Yeah, that's a good assessment. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, you ready to hear what the target is?
I'm ready to hear what the target is.
Okay. Well, it's timely for this month, but this is something you might not have been thinking about at all. So, this this involved two people, and Subject A was Ali Akbar Ahmadian. Now, he's the Supreme National Security Council chief. He's the one who's in charge of everything. Your boat image is very interesting because he came out of the Admiralty. He's an admiral.
Oh, okay.
So he in the Navy, that's a big thing for him.
Okay, so the military uniform description was acceptable.
Yeah, and he has a facial hair. You can actually, in front of you, you can Google.
Could you say his name again? I actually...
yeah, Ali Akbar Ahmadian, Ahmadian.
Hey, does he have a bit of a belly?
He's a little round.
A little round.
A little stout. He's not a lanky teenager.
All right, well that's great. And he's got facial hair. That's a good one.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
I thought you described him pretty well, especially with the military type stuff. And
he's got a green military uniform.
yeah,
Hey, look at that.
He's head of the Supreme. He's head of he's head of security in Iran.
That's great.
He's head of security in Iran. So he's head of the Supreme National Security Council. So the interested here was, did he know anything about the event? And the event is the Hamas attack.
I see.
In Israel. So the real question was, because people are asking, who knew what? And so people were asking, did Iran was apparently supplying a lot of the missiles and a lot of the military equipment that Hamas used. And the real question was, did the security chief of Iran know about the actual attack? And it seems like they were not as fully aware of the attack. They sort of knew something was coming, but they weren't like knowing D-Day.
Yeah. I guess it makes sense, if they supplied stuff, I mean, that means they gave them something, but it's in their hands ultimately. It's not like they're the ones that are actually the ones doing it.
And Subject B was the Iranian president, Ebrahim Raisi. So I was interested in comparing the security chief, Ali Akbar Ahmadian, versus the political side, which is the Iranian president, Ebrahim Raisi.
Does he have facial hair too?
Yeah, they all have facial hair. It's that Islamic
How do
thing.
you spell Raisi? I'm spelling it wrong.
Raisi.
Oh, Raisi. Raisi. Hey, he's got the circular headgear.
Yeah, you got.
And
the
he's
circular-
wearing black robes.
Yeah, you got the description exactly right.
That's great. Oh, fantastic.
And the event E is the first day of the Hamas attack on Israel. So the real question was, did those two guys know the attack on the first day?
And he's a political guy. I was able to distinguish the military guy and the political guy acceptably.
You got it perfectly. You got the military guy as subject A and the political guy as subject B.
That's fascinating. I like it when the descriptions line up. I get to trust the mental stuff a lot more when I know that I actually drew their faces correctly. So that's a lot better. So I'm very happy about that. That's the fact that I was able to get these descriptive images acceptably correct. That's a good feeling. So
The interesting thing that I was getting from your session is that President Ebrahim Raisi seemed to be getting into Event E as Event E got further along. So it seems like the security chief and the president were a bit taken aback. It was a little bit of a surprise when Event E started. But once it got into it, apparently the president of Iran was more of a gung-ho type of... He eventually sort of got into it. And
that sounds like it makes sense, though. You know, once something's big in the news, you know, then and everyone's got an opinion on it. You know,
and he's got to play the
there.
political role, and he's got a public to address, and so... Yeah, so it's natural. And you had him giving talks and giving speeches to follow, large numbers of followers.
Yeah. Well, gosh, this is I'm quite pleased with the remote viewing quality of these images. So, that was.
I was pleased too. I thought it was great. Okay, well, that's news for this, and we move on to the next one.
That sounds good. Yeah.